It was a humid afternoon in June, in the year 1844. The city of Nauvoo, Illinois, stood as a testament to industry and faith, rising from the swamps of the Mississippi River to become one of the largest cities in the state. But a shadow hung over the bustling streets. Joseph Smith, the man who had founded this movement, the man who claimed to have seen the face of God, knew his time was short. He had begun to speak differently in those final weeks. His sermons became less about the administration of a church and more about the architecture of eternity. He spoke with the urgency of a man packing for a long journey from which he would not return. In one of these final, intimate moments, Joseph offered a description of death that was radically different from the terrifying Grim Reaper imagery common to the era. He did not describe a dark void or a sudden end. Instead, he looked at his friends and described passing from this life to the next as simply passing into another room. It was a statement of profound simplicity, yet it carried the weight of a prophet who had peered through the veil not once, but many times. He taught that the separation between the mortal world and the spirit world was not a vast chasm of distance, but a thin, fragile film. A veil that, once lifted, reveals a world that is right here, superimposed over our own, vibrant and teeming with life. Joseph Smith saw what happens when the heart stops beating. Through the visions recorded in the Doctrine and Covenants, his sermons in the King Follett Discourse, and his private teachings to the 12 apostles, he laid out a cartography of the afterlife. He described the immediate transition, the very first moments after the spirit slips free from the physical body. Today, we are going to walk through that transition. We are going to explore 10 specific stages of the soul's awakening that occur in the moments following physical death. These are not merely theological speculations. They are the milestones of a journey you will one day take. We will discuss the shocking continuity of your own personality, the explosion of sensory perception, and the nature of the environment you will step into. We will reveal the fourth truth on our list, a reality so comforting and powerful that it has the potential to heal the grief you may be carrying right now. But first, I have to ask you a question that I want you to hold in your heart as we begin. If you were to walk through a door right now and leave everything physical behind, your clothes, your money, your body, what would be left? What is the you that remains? The answer to that question is the foundation of the first thing Joseph Smith saw. 1. The immediate continuity of consciousness. The first thing that happens 30 seconds after you die is the realization that you have not died at all. This is the most jarring and immediate discovery of the spirit. In our mortal experience, we equate being alive with the beating of a heart and the drawing of breath. We assume that without the biological machine, the ghost in the machine simply flickers out. But Joseph taught the exact opposite. He taught that the spirit is not a wisp of smoke or a fleeting thought. It is matter. It is substance. It is more refined and pure than physical matter, but it is real, tangible, and eternal. When the physical body shuts down, the spirit does not go into a coma. It does not sleep. It steps out. Joseph taught that the mind of man is co-eternal with God. That means your consciousness, your I am, was never created and can never be destroyed. In that first moment of separation, you will look down at the shell you used to inhabit, but you will feel more awake, more vibrant, and more yourself than you ever felt while encased in flesh. The brain is merely the hardware, you are the software, the signal, the operator. And when the computer breaks, the operator stands up. Consider the story of Sarah, a woman from Ohio who shared her testimony of a near-death experience following a severe car accident. She wrote, "I expected darkness. I expected the end. But the moment the impact happened, I was standing beside the car. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't confused. I was hyper-aware. I saw the traffic stopping. I saw my body slumped over the wheel, but I felt no attachment to it, like seeing a coat I had discarded. I was thinking clearly, more clearly than I ever had in my life. I realized with a shock that Sarah wasn't the body in the car. Sarah was the one looking at it." This aligns perfectly with Joseph's teachings in the Book of Mormon, specifically in Alma 40, which explains that the spirit returns home immediately. It is not a drift into nothingness. It is a snap into clarity. You bring your personality with you. If you were funny in life, you are funny in the spirit world. If you were curious, you are still curious. If you were kind, you are still kind. You do not suddenly become a generic angel playing a harp. You remain distinctively, stubbornly you. This truth is vital because it changes how we live today. We spend so much time grooming, feeding, and exercising the body, which is destined to decompose. But how much time do we spend cultivating the spirit, the personality, the character, the intellect, which is the only thing that survives the transition? Joseph taught that whatever principle of intelligence we attain unto in this life, it will rise with us in the resurrection. The first 30 seconds are a confirmation that your investment in your character was the only investment that mattered. You step out of the body, and you are immediately, undeniably present. 2. The shattering of the veil and the restoration of memory. As the shock of your continued existence settles, a second, more profound transformation begins to take place. This is what Joseph Smith alluded to when he spoke of the veil of forgetfulness. Before we came to this earth, we lived as spirits. We knew God. We knew each other. We had histories, relationships, and vast amounts of knowledge. But upon birth, a veil was drawn over our minds so that we could be tested, walking by faith rather than sight. In the moments after death, that veil begins to thin and shatter. Imagine waking up from a long, complex dream where you thought you were someone else, only to realize you are back in your true life. That is the sensation of dying. The memory of your premortal existence begins to flood back. This isn't just recalling facts. It is a restoration of identity. You remember your primeval history. You remember the covenants you made before the foundation of the world. You realize that the life you just lived on Earth, whether it was 5 years or 95 years, was just a brief mission, a study abroad program, in the context of your eternal existence. This restoration changes your perspective on everyone you just left behind and everyone you are about to meet. You realize that there are no strangers. The person you sat next to on the bus, the difficult boss, the homeless man on the corner, you likely knew them before. This restoration of memory brings a profound sense of context to the suffering you may have endured. In mortality, we ask, why me? Because we only see the middle of the movie. Once the veil lifts, we remember the beginning. We remember that we may have chosen certain challenges to help us grow, or agreed to endure certain trials to help others. Scripture tells us in Jeremiah, "Before I formed thee in the belly I knew thee." That word "knew" implies a deep, personal relationship. In the first moments of the afterlife, you return to that state of knowing. This is terrifying to the wicked, who suddenly remember the promises they broke, but it is glorious to the righteous. It explains the sensation many people have at the moment of death. A look of recognition, a sudden widening of the eyes, a whisper of a name. They are not hallucinating. They are remembering. Think of the implications of this. It means that you are currently suffering from a form of spiritual amnesia. You are a being of immense age and experience, momentarily confined to a limited perspective. When you die, you don't just go forward into a new future. You reconnect with an ancient past. You become whole again. The you that steps out of the body is the you that shouted for joy when the foundations of the earth were laid. This restoration of memory is the second great stage of the transition, expanding your mind beyond the tiny slice of history you occupied on Earth. 3. The expansion of sensory perception. The third phenomenon Joseph Smith and subsequent prophets have described is a radical expansion of the senses. In our mortal bodies, we are severely limited. We can only see a tiny spectrum of light. We can only hear a narrow range of frequencies. We are trapped in 3 dimensions. But the spirit is not limited by the biology of the eye or the mechanics of the ear. When you step into the spirit world, your capacity to perceive reality explodes. Brigham Young, who learned from Joseph, taught that in the spirit world, we will see as God sees. This suggests a mode of perception that is spherical rather than linear. You don't just look at an object. You perceive it entirely. Its inside, its outside, its essence. Communication changes as well. In mortality, we struggle to put feelings into words. We say, "I love you," but those 3 words are a poor container for the actual feeling. We misunderstand each other constantly. In the spirit world, Communication is often described as telepathic or instantaneous. You project your thought, and it is received perfectly with all its nuance and emotion by the other person. There is no possibility of being misunderstood. Let me share the story of Thomas, a man who experienced a drowning incident in his 20s. He recounted, "The water filled my lungs, and then suddenly, I was above the lake. But the world looked different. The trees weren't just green. They were glowing with a light that came from inside them. I could see the life force running through the leaves. I could hear the thoughts of the rescue workers. Not their words, but their intentions. I knew who was afraid, who was confident. It was like I had been watching black and white TV my whole life, and suddenly someone turned on 4K high-definition color. I realized that my physical eyes had been like sunglasses, dimming the brilliance of the real world. This enhanced perception extends to movement as well. Joseph taught that spirits move according to the speed of thought. If you desire to be somewhere, you are there. The heavy, sluggish drag of gravity and distance no longer applies. This is why the spirit world, though it is right here around us, remains invisible to us. It operates on a frequency we cannot tune into with biological instruments. But 30 seconds after you die, you become the instrument. You tune into the frequency of eternity. This sensory expansion is not just about superpowers. It is about truth. For the first time, you see things exactly as they are, without the distortion of your physical brain's limitations or biases. You see the glory of God's creation in a way that would burn out mortal retinas. You hear the music of the spheres. You perceive the interconnectedness of all living things. This sensory awakening is the third stage, preparing you for the emotional tsunami that is the fourth stage. 4. The encounter with family and friends. We have arrived at the fourth truth, the one I promised would change your life. This is the stage that answers the deepest ache of the human heart, the fear of loneliness and permanent separation. Joseph Smith taught, and thousands of near-death experiences confirm, that you do not cross into the spirit world alone. You are met. There is a welcoming committee, and it is composed of the people you loved most in this life and the people you loved in the life before. Joseph Smith once said during a funeral sermon, "I have a father, brothers, children, and friends who have gone to a world of spirits. They are only absent for a moment. They are in the spirit, and we shall soon meet them again." He spoke of this reunion not as a vague hope, but as a concrete reality. When you die, the first faces you see will likely be your parents, your grandparents, a spouse who passed before you, or even a child you lost too soon. This is the change your life moment because it recontextualizes grief. We mourn here because we feel the silence. We feel the empty chair. But on the other side, there is no silence. There is a celebration. The moment of your death is their moment of joy. It is a homecoming. Consider Maria, a grandmother who lay on her deathbed, surrounded by her weeping children. Moments before she passed, her eyes opened wide, focusing on a corner of the room that appeared empty to everyone else. A smile of pure, radiant delight broke across her face. A smile her children hadn't seen in years of illness. She whispered, "Mama, you're wearing the blue dress." Maria's mother had died 30 years prior and was buried in a blue dress that Maria had loved. In that moment, the veil parted for her before her heart even stopped. She wasn't looking into the dark. She was looking into the face of her mother. This stage of the transition teaches us that relationships are eternal. The love you build here creates a bond that acts like a spiritual magnet. When you cross over, that bond pulls you together. You are not entering a cold, bureaucratic heaven where you are just a number. You are entering a family reunion. The prophets have taught that we will know one another, not just as spirits, but we will recognize the features, the voices, and the love we shared. For anyone listening who has lost someone dear, who worries that their loved one is cold or alone or has forgotten them, Joseph Smith's vision shouts a resounding, "No, they are not alone. They are with their people. And they are waiting for you. The welcoming committee is real. The reunion is guaranteed." This knowledge should give you the courage to face mortality, knowing that the finish line is actually the arms of those you love. 5. the absence of physical limitations. As the reunion settles, the fifth realization washes over the spirit: the total absence of physical limitation. This is particularly poignant for those who suffer from chronic pain, disability, age, or illness. The spirit is not born, and it does not age in the way the body does. Joseph F. Smith, the nephew of the prophet, saw in a vision that the spirit appears in the prime of life. Infants who die appear as spirits in the form of children but with the intelligence of adults. The elderly who die with broken bodies step out of them standing tall, straight, and vigorous. Imagine the sensation for a person who has spent the last 10 years of their life in a wheelchair, or hooked to an oxygen tank, or fighting the fog of dementia. 30 seconds after death, the pain stops, the fog clears, the legs work, the lungs fill with a breath that doesn't require air. The sheer relief of this stage cannot be overstated. It is the casting off of a heavy, rusted suit of armor that you have been forced to wear for decades. I recall the story of an old man named Arthur who had lost his sight to diabetes. He was bitter about his darkness. When he had a cardiac event and was resuscitated, he came back weeping, not because he was afraid of death, but because he was angry to be back in the dark. He told the nurse, I could see the dust motes in the air. I could see the stitching on your uniform. I was young again. This is the promise of the spirit world. Rest. Not the rest of sleep, but the rest from burden. The spirit does not get tired. It does not get hungry. It does not suffer from chemical imbalances or hormonal shifts. It is a state of liberation. For those of you caring for sick relatives or suffering in your own bodies, know this: the illness is not you. It is a temporary malfunction of the housing unit. The tenant inside is whole, perfect, and waiting to be set free. This is the fifth stage, the great unburdening. Pause for reflection. We have journeyed through the first 5 stages: the continuity of self, the return of memory, the awakening of senses, the reunion with loved ones, and the liberation from the body. These truths are heavy, and they are glorious. Before we continue to the next 5, which include the life review and the assignment of your eternal work, I want to ask you to do something. If you believe that you are more than just biology, if you feel that spark of eternity inside you, take a moment to interact with this message. Subscribe to the channel if you want to explore more about the history and future of your soul. And in the comments below, I want you to write 2 words: I am eternal. It's a small act, but it's a declaration of faith. It's a way of telling your own spirit, I know what you are. Go ahead. Type, I am eternal. Now let us step back through the veil. We have left the body, we have met our family, but now the environment itself begins to come into focus. 6. The brightness and glory of the environment. The 6th thing Joseph Smith and other visionaries described is the landscape of the spirit world itself. It is not a place of clouds and harps. It is a world of tangible reality, often described as having gardens, buildings, rivers, and mountains, but all of it suffused with a glory that does not exist on earth. Heber C. Kimball, a close associate of Joseph, said that if we could see the glory of the spirit world, we would be willing to crawl on our hands and knees for the rest of our lives just to get there. It is a place of order. Joseph Smith was a man who loved order and beauty, and his visions reflected a God who is the ultimate architect. The spirit world is described as having flowers that don't fade, light that doesn't cast harsh shadows, and an atmosphere of peace that is palpable. Brigham Young described the spirit world as being right here on earth, just in a different dimension. He said, "Where is the spirit world? It is right here. Do the spirits, go beyond the boundaries of the organized earth? No, they are brought forth upon this earth, for the express purpose of inhabiting it to all eternity." This means the beauty of the spirit world is a perfected version of the beauty of the earth. When you die, you don't go to a different planet. You see the earth as it really is in its spiritual state. This stage is about the aesthetic and environmental shock of the transition. We are used to decay. We are used to rust, weeds, pollution, and gray skies. 30 seconds after you die, you perceive an environment where life is the dominant force, not entropy. The grass is alive in a way we can't understand. The structures are built of materials that glow. It is a homecoming to a garden we were exiled from long ago. It is the realization that the earth was always meant to be a paradise, and in the spirit realm it already is. 7. The Life Review, the Bright Recollection. Now we move to a more sober and piercing stage of the transition. The Life Review. The Book of Mormon prophet Alma describes this as having a bright recollection of all our guilt. But it is also a bright recollection of all our good. This is not God sitting on a throne reading a list of your sins while you cower. It is a self-confrontation. In the presence of the pure light of the spirit world, you can no longer lie to yourself. On earth, we rationalize. We say, I yelled at my kids because I was tired, or I stole that money because the company owed me. We build walls of justification. In the moments after death, those walls crumble. You see your actions exactly as they were. You feel the pain you caused others, and you feel the joy you brought them. Joseph Smith taught that we are our own judges. He said, a man is his own tormentor and his own condemner. The torment of disappointment in the mind of man is as exquisite as a lake burning with fire and brimstone. This imagery of fire is not physical flame. It is the burning of regret. It is the searing clarity of seeing that you chose selfishness over love. But there is a beautiful side to this. You also see the ripple effects of your kindness. Consider James, a man who shared a testimony of his NDE. He saw a moment where he had simply smiled at a cashier who was having a terrible day. He saw that his smile stopped her from going home and yelling at her son. He saw that because she didn't yell at her son, the son didn't kick the dog. He saw the chain reaction of light that he had started without even knowing it. This bright recollection is the 7th stage. It is the ultimate accounting. It urges us to live our lives now in a way that will make that review a joy rather than a terror. It reminds us that nothing is hidden. Every secret act, good or bad, is recorded in the very substance of your soul, and in that moment the book is opened. 8. The immediate assignment, paradise or prison. Following the review, there is a separation. This is a core doctrine of the restoration. Joseph taught that the spirit world is divided into 2 primary states, though they occupy the same sphere, paradise and spirit prison. This sounds harsh to modern ears, but we must understand what Joseph meant by prison. Paradise is a state of rest and peace for those who have made covenants with God and kept them. It is the place where the welcoming committee resides. It is a place of relief. Spirit prison, however, is not necessarily a place of torture. It is a place of detention, a holding pattern. It is for those who died without knowing the truth, or those who rejected it. But here is the revolutionary doctrine Joseph Smith restored. The doors of the prison are unlocked. Joseph saw that the gospel is preached in spirit prison. It is a place of learning. It is a school. Think of the billions of people who have died without ever hearing the name of Jesus Christ. Think of the good people who lived in confusing circumstances. Would a just God condemn them forever for ignorance? Joseph Smith said no. He taught that the priesthood is organized in the spirit world to teach those spirits. So, the 8th thing that happens is an assignment. You gravitate toward the spirits who are like you. If you are filled with light, you go to a place of light. If you are filled with confusion or darkness, you go to a place where you must wait and learn. It is a self-sorting process. As the saying goes, oil and water do not mix. In the spirit world, you cannot pretend to be what you are not. You naturally drift to the level of your own spiritual development. 9. The continuation of mission. For those in paradise, the 9th stage is the realization that retirement is a myth. There is no sitting on clouds. There is work to be done. The work of the spirit world is the work of rescue. Joseph Smith, in his final years, was obsessed with the connection between the living and the dead. He taught that we have a duty to our ancestors, and they have an interest in us. Upon entering paradise, you are given a mission. You may be assigned to be a guardian angel to those you left behind. You may be assigned to preach the gospel in spirit prison to your ancestors who didn't have the chance to hear it. The activity in the spirit world is intense. It is a hive of industry and service. Elena, a woman who lost her father, a workaholic man who loved to serve, dreamt of him shortly after he died. She asked, "Dad, are you resting?" In the dream, he laughed and said, "Resting? I've never been busier. There is so much to do here, and everyone wants to listen." She woke up with a profound sense of peace, knowing her father hadn't ceased to exist. He had just been promoted. This gives dignity to death. We are not just fading away. We are being transferred to a new department where our skills are desperately needed. If you are a teacher here, you will be a teacher there. If you are a peacemaker here, you will be a peacemaker there. Your unique talents find their ultimate expression in the work of the spirit world. 10. The anticipation of resurrection. Finally, we reach the 10th stage. After the reunion, the relief, the review, and the work, there settles upon the spirit a profound longing. Joseph F. Smith recorded in Doctrine and Covenants 138 that the dead looked upon the long absence of their spirits from their bodies as a bondage. Even though the spirit world is glorious, it is not the end. The spirit is incomplete without the body. The ultimate goal of our existence is not to be a ghost, but to be a soul, which is spirit and body inseparably connected. This 10th stage is the deep, spiritual hunger for the resurrection. We wait for the day when the grave will open, and we will be reunited with a perfected, immortal physical form, like the resurrected Christ. This longing drives the work of the spirit world. It focuses our eyes on the second coming and the final judgment. It reminds us that death is just a pause, a temporary separation of the elements, destined to be reversed. Recap and conclusion. Let us look back at the roadmap Joseph Smith left for us. When you close your eyes in this life for the last time, you will open them to continuity. You are still you. Memory. The veil shatters and your ancient history returns. Senses. You see and communicate with godlike clarity. Reunion. You are embraced by those you love. Relief. Pain and physical limitations vanish. Environment. You step into a world of indescribable beauty and order. Review. You face your life with absolute honesty. Assignment. You move to the state, paradise, or prison that matches your light. Mission. You begin your greatest work of service. Anticipation. You look forward to the resurrection and full joy. This is the roadmap. This is the promise. Death is not a wall. It is a door. It is passing into another room. Joseph Smith saw it. He testified of it. And eventually he walked through it just as we all will. The central message of the restoration regarding death is simple. Do not fear. Live your life today with the knowledge that it is the seed of your eternity. Treat people with the kindness you want to see in your life review. Build the relationships you want to continue in the spirit world. Cultivate the mind you want to take with you. The next room is ready. The lights are on. The family is waiting. All you have to do is live a life worthy of the reunion. Thank you for walking this journey with us. If this message gave you hope, please share it with someone who is grieving. There is no greater gift than the knowledge that goodbye is not the end. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon, for the veil is thinner than you think.